Odinga. Let's wait and see how this goes as the tallying process continues at the Bomas of Kenya here in Nairobi. Millions of Kenyans waiting to see how really this will go. Let's bring in Namu, Allan Namu, in just a few minutes. Of course, he will be looking at the numbers that we're currently looking at on our screens and helping us to understand really what do the numbers mean. Namu.
Yes, what indeed do these numbers mean? I'm joined by Professor Macharia Munene this evening to help try and crunch these numbers one last time. Like you saw the tally, 266 constituencies out of 291. That leaves us with 23 counties, and I've got them right here. Let me just go through them before we start this discussion. The 23 counties that haven't yet been tallied: Emurua Dikir, Kibwezi East has just been tallied, Kibwezi West, Kilgoris, Narok South, Narok East, Narok North, Funyula, Teso North, Teso South, Bahati, Baringo North, Luanda, Ndhiwa, Sabatia, Samburu East, Tiati, Laisamis, Belgut, Samburu West, Mwala, Nakuru Town West. And before I continue, Raila Odinga has called for a media briefing at his Karen residence immediately after the announcement of the results. That's something to look forward to. Raila Odinga, once again, the leader of the Chord Coalition, has called. We can confirm here on KTN first that Raila Odinga has called for a press conference after the announcement of results at his Karen residence. We're going to be carrying that, so you stick with us and we'll get you those details. Now, finally, Nakuru Town West. Now, Professor, we've just heard the announcement of 5 constituencies. There was Kibwezi East, Matungulu. There also was Samburu West, Suna East, and Kitui Rural. All in total, adding up to 116,671 for Raila Odinga, adding to his tally 17,433. At this point, what do you make of these numbers?
Well, they just add a little bit to Raila Odinga's tally, but they do not make any difference in terms of the eventual outcome, because the remaining constituencies, if we look at them, about 19-20 of them, on the average, assume that you can see they have about 40,000 votes, assuming they all turn out and they all vote for Raila. Yes. And there are about 20 of them. Multiply that by 40 by 20, and they are not 40 anyway. That's 800,000. This tally shows that he's behind by 1 million votes.
Close to 1 million now.
Close to, so they, and the reality is that he's not going to get all those 800. You get maybe 400, 500 at best. At
current tally of what's on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, at current tally, Professor, Uhuru Kenyatta has garnered 50.96% at my last calculation. That's right above the 50% threshold. But between 7 and 8 p.m. coming towards 9, he's been oscillating between 49.8, 50.2. Now look, you have mentioned that Raila Odinga has got a couple of constituencies here that it would make a difference to perhaps the contest between himself and Uhuru Kenyatta. But how about the contest between Uhuru Kenyatta and this threshold, 50%?
50%.
Plus 1?
There's no problem. In fact, the percentage might even go up, because if you look at some of these constituencies, there are those which are definitely going for Raila. Yes. And we know, I think Narok North has already called, but it's a split. Some of these are split. Kibwezi remaining, that's mostly Raila. Kilgoris is likely to be split.
It's actually split, but mostly in favor of Raila.
In favor, okay. Give that to Raila. You know. Then Narok South split. All right. Narok East split. North split in favor of Raila. Yes. Okay. Then Funyula, that's Raila. North Teso, Raila. South Teso, Raila. Bahati, Uhuru. Baringo North, most likely Uhuru. Uhuru, yes. Okay. Luanda, Raila. Ndhiwa, Raila.
Sabatia, 58,200 votes. That's pretty big. That's pretty big, considering there's also Kibwezi West. And if you're looking at Kitui Rural, 23,000 to about 4,000. You can see Raila is or rather Uhuru has been outvoted in Lower Eastern almost 5-1. And if you look at Dhiwa being in his home turf, it's almost likely that this entire amount is going to go towards.
In fact, if you look at these figures, John, there are about 5 constituencies with about 50, 60, almost 60 votes, assuming they all vote according to this, and Raila gets every one of them, which is not possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say even 5. So 5 constituencies roughly at 40,000 votes each. That's 200,000 votes. Automatically. 2,000
votes pushes Raila into the 5 million.
Into the 5 million bracket. The others are in the 30-20 area. And so what I'm saying is that irrespective of how you splice this, it is unlikely that Raila will catch up with Uhuru. And then you add in the Musalia factor and the rejected. Musalia and all the rest plus the rejected, they are not going to increase beyond 600,000 together. And so when you add them up, you end up with a difference. Uhuru still going above the board. And so that's why it's very clear what is going on.
You know, just aside from the numbers for a moment, this has been, I mean, the tally, the total number of votes cast, 11,438,903. This is likely the highest the highest number of votes that any presidential candidate, either one of them combined, have ever gotten in any election. Perhaps I'm wrong.
No, this is the highest turnout that we have had.
What is that indicative of, especially with regard to this election?
This how people took it seriously, that it was make or break, and so you could see even the mobilization, get out the vote, don't stay home, even if you are sick, go and vote and then go back to bed, and we shall carry you. So there was, and the lines we saw for kilometers, people just lining up, waiting for hours just to vote. It told us that there is something in the country that was decisive. People are saying, let's do it and do it properly, once for all. And it is possible that we might hit 12 million.
It actually is possible. So Uhuru Kenyatta crosses the 6 million threshold, and it goes over to 12 million. He's right there, right on the edge.
He's right on the edge.
And perhaps not comfortable enough.
If you look at this, all he needs is 108,000 votes to get to 6 million.
All right, let's look for them. Let's see. Okay, Belgut. Belgut, okay, I don't have those figures there, but Belgut probably around 40,000 registered.
40,000 roughly.
Baringo North, that's 32,000. So if you add that, of course, we're not adding 100%, but if you add that, that's 70,000. All right, let's look for another constituency here, Nakuru Town West, probably around the 50,000, 40,000, 50,000 region. Actually, I think I have Nakuru Town West here. Let me look for it. Nakuru Town West, actually, yes, 71,842.
So theoretically, add to that, you get about 140,000.
And then Bahati. Then there's Bahati. Okay, Bahati, I don't have those figures here, but again, Bahati also very highly populated.
Very highly.
He's going to be able to reach that threshold with just 4 constituencies.
Just 4 constituencies, and then you add the others. The sharing of the Narok, the 2 Naroks, they'll be sharing some votes there.
Prof, let me just cut you off for a moment, and we'll come back to this conversation, but we go to a region where Uhuru Kenyatta has done very well, and our own Mercy Kandie, who's been covering that region from Nandi to Uasin Gishu, now comes to us with this story. Take a look. Actually, Mercy is live with us. Mercy, what do you have prepared for us this evening, this very important evening when it's likely that the election will be called?
These votes are not going to come to him.
Today we're coming to you live from Uasin Gishu County, an area where Jubilee's running mate William Ruto comes from. What is interesting, however, is that during the campaign season, William Samoei Arap Ruto had been calling upon the residents of Eldoret Town and the North Rift region at large to vote and go analog from digital. What he means is that to put into leadership those people who have been seen as new, the young and very energetic leaders within Uasin Gishu County. So this was witnessed with the results of the recent preliminary results and also those ones announced by the IEBC. We filed for you a story or just how the move of the Jubilee Alliance to tell the residents to move from analog to digital and how it worked out. Take a look at this story.
The North Rift region is singing to a new tune as a new crop of leadership takes root in the region. One that saw its political giants fall, and with the fall, the popular names that have resonated across the region for years now, history, the new county government as though intentional, coming with new names.
My name's Alex Tanui Tolgos.
At just 31 years of age, Tolgos is the elected governor of Elgeyo Marakwet, with the Senator Kipchumba Murkomen also at 33, trouncing the political guru Nicholas Biwott.
Age is not an issue for me. I know of leaders, including the Alexander the Great, who conquered the world at 19 years. Age is never an issue. It's about people who have a vision and have the will and the capacity to deliver the services they are going to do.
Neighboring county Uasin Gishu also singing from the same tune in electing fresh leadership gave the gubernatorial seat to Jackson Mandago, with Isaac Melly, Uasin Gishu's choice of senator, both below the age of 40.
For a celebration and assumption of office of the governor of Uasin Gishu County.
I want to thank the people of Uasin Gishu County for voting in me as their first senator of choice.
Tinderet constituency in Nandi County had known one man as its member of parliament for 30 years. Henry Kosgei, who in this election season was contesting for the senator's seat, losing to the youthful Stephen Arap Sang. A message echoed in almost every constituency, with Mgwen opting for the younger Kosgei as their MP.
Asante sana kwa kura. Asante sana kwa kila mtu ambaye alisaidia kwa kura, nashukuru. Ile nasema tu sahi sasa tumemaliza kungoja, sasa tunataka kuanza kazi kuanzia kesho alafu tusonge mbele.
The wave also swept across Cherangani, where the electorate gave the thumbs up to 2012 Boston Marathon winner Wesley Korir to represent them in the 11th Parliament.
It was a very tight seat. It was very competitive between me and the outgoing MP, Mr. Akutuny. But I'm very happy that I was able to come out victorious on it. Defeating an incumbent is not an easy job.
And so the next 4 years being the test for this new crop of leadership, and come the next election season, the people will get to decide again whether to retain the youthful team or bring back the old guards. Marcy Kandia, KTN Choice 2013 in Eldoret.
That was a story, and we can safely say that the North Rift region has moved from what the Jubilee Alliance says, from analog to digital. What was the old leadership now to the new leadership. I will now hand you back to Ann Kiguta in our election center to tell you more about the numbers, the latest on the numbers. My name is Marcy Kandia, coming to you live from Eldoret town.
Mercy Kendia there for us. Thank you so much, Mercy, and welcome back to the election center. Joining me is political writer Barack Muluka. Thanks for staying with us. Uhuru has 52.17% of the tally so far, a gap of more than 1 million votes between himself and Raila Odinga. Is it over?
I think that sometimes we don't want to say certain things. We want to leave them to be said by someone else. In this case, we've got someone called Isaac Hassan who is going to say it, but I think in all honesty it is done. I do not see that it's going to be possible to close up that gap again, and no matter how much far below Uhuru's percentages drop, they cannot fall below 51%.
Which is the threshold that the Constitution requires.
The Constitution requires 50% plus 1. But I'm saying, like I said when I sat here on Tuesday this week, that it's going to close at about 51%.
So for you, the lead is unassailable. What do you think has worked for the Ruto team?
Obviously, a much better organized campaign machine. You could see that they had a clear message that seemed to resonate with a certain constituency. Part of it gravitated around the ICC issue, which of course they began positioning as long ago as about 3 years ago in 2010. As soon as the 6 names were released, they started making certain kinds of allegations against the person who would become the foremost competitor, and using it and positioning it as a campaign issue. They were able to put together 2 very huge voting blocks and to sustain them towards until the very end. And then of course they were able to mobilize and galvanize voters in those 2 massive voting blocks to go out and register and to feel like they wanted to turn out to vote, and that was always very pulsating. And then of course towards the very end we have been seeing the messages on TV, in the press, in the billboards, messages that can resonate with a chosen constituency, and very well packaged, and that sort of thing has worked very well for them. They've been very consistent in terms of even the media invites and briefings, which have been ongoing throughout the period.
Do you think they've been better organized than the CORD team?
There's no doubt about it. In any event, the CORD team was cobbled towards the very tail end of the process. These were people who were moving together from the days of the so-called KKK alliance, I think, which tag they disowned after having used for about a year. Then there came the G7. In fact, towards the very end, it became a question of who they were going to disgorge from that arraignment and who was going to go along. And they got to a point where they saw that certain people did not seem to matter in one way or the other. You could stay with us, or you could be offloaded, and we were still going to make it. And I think that by the time Isaka San stands before the Kenyan nation to make his final pronouncement on this, it will be quite clear that it has worked for them.
Interesting. And so in your opinion, was your colleague Mutahingunyi right with his tyranny of numbers?
The issue of the tyranny of numbers, like it or hate it, is actually true. The downswing is, of course, that we are going to end up with a government that has been put in place, not quite collectively by the Kenyan nation, but by 2 huge voting blocks. There's a sense in which one can say that 2 huge voting blocks have decided. It's not exactly like Kenya has decided, but since we are all part and parcel of that process, we must eventually own up and say Kenya has decided, and of course leave the challenge for the president, or with the president elect, and when he becomes president, and with his deputy, to imbue the rest of the Kenyan nation with the feeling that they also belong, because
and I'd love us to just take a break there, and we'll continue with that thought, regardless of who the IEBC will declare president-elect, if indeed that is what will happen, or an announcement of a runoff and a declaration a little later. How will these 2 gentlemen, who obviously, given the numbers that we're seeing on our screens, command a huge chunk of the country, both of them, how can they work together? Time for us to take a short breather. We'll be back right here at the election center, as our eyes are of course fixed at the Bomas of Kenya, where we are expecting an announcement on how this race will end sometime tonight.